Good evening. Welcome to the January 11th, 2022 Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for the City of Fayetteville, Tennessee. I'll ask Alderman Small to say an opening prayer. We'll stand for that and the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into our agenda. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this another day to serve you and the city of Fayetteville. Thank you for watching over everyone that works for the city and everyone in the community on this day. We ask, Lord, that you go before us now in this meeting as we make decisions for this city. We ask, Lord, that you send prayers for those that are in need and those that are suffering with loss on this day. May they be comforted in your care. It is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. You have your agenda in front of you. Does anybody have any additions, deletions? We'll go forward with this agenda. First, we have a review of the public hearing minutes of the amendment to allow self-storage units in I-1 district as a special exception from December. Does anybody have any corrections, deletions, additions? We'll enter those in the record. Next is public hearing minutes from rezone of 516 Adams Street from C3 to R3. Any deletions, additions? I'll put those in the record. Last is the regular meeting minutes of December 14th, 2021. Does anybody have any corrections, deletions, additions? We'll enter those in the record. We'll start with our reports. We'll ask Mr. CEO Britt Dye of Fayetteville Public Utilities to come forward.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I'd like to report on, we brought the new year in with stormy weather. I mean, it's been exciting for us, you know, be out there working, and our system, all the utilities have been holding up very well. And along with you being part of the board, you know, our strategic planning process has been to improve the system tremendously on all the utilities, and you see how it is we didn't have many outages during the major storms. The winds got really high, had a few little downbursts of winds that caused little problems, got a few leaks, but I know before years back it would have been a mess for us, and we'd still be out working today. So got to brag on the system when it performs well, and I'll brag on it again when it don't. But you know, we can't do nothing about the weather. Another thing I like to talk about is most important thing is we got to be sure our employees are staying safe with the pandemic. It's been a really challenging year, last 2 years, 2.5 years, and we're still going by a lot of the guidelines with the CDC, but also FPU's got some pretty good policies in place to be sure that everybody tries to stay safe if you get exposed or if you get the COVID. So, working with TVL on the Community Care Fund, we got an allocation up to $15,000 once we find out, see how we're going to be able to spend that. And then I'll have to meet with the board and see how they want to disperse those funds out into the community. We have been giving back to the community of everything we got on the pandemic relief as far as the funding. We're also working with the state on state revolving fund loan that we're submitting all the forms because we got the for the water rehab projects that we got going on. We're just waiting to hear back from the state and see, you know, with that project cost and with the engineering and projection for the contractors, you know, we're close to $17 million on that cost. You know, we brought to the city before, so we're just waiting to see what's going to happen there. Also working with the state on the American Rescue Plan for grants to expand our broadband in rural communities. And right now the plan that we have, if we get the money, is go all the way up to the north, to the east, which would be all the way up into the Flintville area, you know, almost to the county line on the Bedford County side. So got a lot of it hooked up already on the west part of the county where we can build broadband into. We just can't build into areas that served by other competitors. If it's Monster Broadband, Spectrum, Mediacom, AT&T, we can't build in that area where they're already at. So that's the state rule. I know that they are changing the guidelines on what the speeds are. Right now they might have a final rule where it's 100 download and 100 upload. So that'll be a tremendous increase on speeds of what's going to be required by the state. Materials, 15 kVA transformers, which we use mostly all of installed new services. They're up to 60 weeks out. We have some in stock, but you know, with storms that's going through, especially what happened up in Kentucky, a lot of the material that was coming our way went up to Kentucky, you know, and that's what they had to do to try to get those folks back in power. Also, on pad-mounted transformers, can't give you a time. We'll call and try to get a delivery time or an order, and nothing's happening. They quit taking orders on pad-mounted, which is for underground. Conductors, primary lines, 40 weeks out, meters 26 weeks out. Substation transformers of a large size is 118 weeks out. So, you know, that's what we're dealing with. So if we have something big and we got to build like an industrial park substation of any size, it's going to take a little while to get a transformer in here. So gas risers, 9 months out. Gas meters, 11 months out. Residential regulators, 40 weeks out. So that's what we're dealing with as far as material, you know, of getting timing. Plus the prices are almost triple. Also on the, we're doing our annual gas valve maintenance. We had 10 new applications for new gas service in the month of December. Trouble calls have decreased quite a bit. The EPU connected 96 new internet services in the month of December, but we disconnected quite a few on the cable side because a lot of folks waited till the last day to disconnect. Had a lot of pole changes in the engineering department, sold 50 electric permits for the month of December, which shows you that construction is still going on pretty strong. Tree trimming, we're up in the Fayetteville area. We have been out this week behind the TSC trying to get that trimmed out over there where it crosses the river, getting all that back in real good shape. And other than that, Mayor, you got your website page that we're going to, EPU videos, and records anything with Alderman meeting. That's how the customers can get to that. They take you straight to the YouTube. We just try to make it simple. If you just go to the website, click on that where it says here, you're right there at the site, right there watching the video that's going on. We have been all year for the last year and a half, we've been working a lot with Frito-Lay. Frankie Food Service, Copperwell by Metallics. If you know what's going on with Copperwell right now, they got 2 more places that they've opened up out there at the East Park on the industrial, you know, one over where the old Neat Pond is. Now they moved another part into the new spec building. So we've been working with them quite a bit. Riverside Christian Academy, Lincoln County Museum, Lincoln County High School. Been doing a lot of services as far as trying to help them better, like if it's their lighting, if it's like their HVAC systems and those kinds of things, see what incentives can happen there. But we're busy working with the industry all the time, working a lot with direct coil because they're trying to divide or look at other things that's coming into that location as well. And that's my report, Mayor.
That's quite a bit. On the supply chain, is there any indication that's getting better or is it getting worse?
Right now, it's getting worse. You can't even get a truck chassis in here to put a bucket truck on because we had some on order and now we're in the line, but they told us it would be like the latter part of this year. Now they're talking about the latter part of 23, if they can get their hands on something. So it's getting worse, but eventually I hope it'll get better. I hope it gets better, because if not, we're not going to be able to construct new services or anything else. But like I said, we got a lot of stuff in stock that we started a little over 2 years ago when the pandemic first started, because we saw it coming down the road, and we said we better start ordering to get things in here because we didn't know, you know, you got short of people working and those kinds of things. So I'm just glad we started stocking up 2 years ago. We got more stock right now than we had for years, you know, for all the utilities, but it's not going to last forever. So.
Sure. Any other questions of Mr. Dunn?
What about metal poles? Where are you at on metal poles?
Metal poles right now, they've increased in cost, but the delivery right now is about 10 to 12 weeks, depending on the size.
Yeah, I'm talking about the type of the real tall ones that like we go to the park, Don Davidson Park.
The 70-foot poles, which
Whatever they are.
The wood poles that's out there now are 80 to 85-foot poles.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of lighting you go to, you're going to be somewhere between 60 and 70-foot poles, which are easier to get.
Right.
So, you know, if you get an order in, you can probably get them within, could be 6 weeks, could be 10 weeks.
Cost is way up, I suppose.
They've increased, but wood poles have to. So,
Okay.
Yeah, they've all increased.
So I'm sure that, I know you've been working with our administrative people on the lighting and all.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm hearing you say, it's going to save quite a bit of being able to maybe cut down on the height of that pole.
Yes, sir.
And I guess the type of lighting you put on there makes up for that, probably.
Yes, sir. There's certain lights now with the LEDs, the way that they can aim them. You know, we got wood poles out there now with 80 foot. It's got the metal halide lights. You have to have more of those type lights to light what you want to get lit. With
Right.
the LEDs, you cut down some. Plus, we got some of the metal halides that's back to back, like shining on one of the softball fields and shining on the baseball field, which would be the same principle on the. Let's say if you went with the Musco lighting, the poles don't have to be as tall. You got more lights, but you got less poles. I think it's possible with all the poles out there now, you might have a total of 10 poles if you.
So there's a possibility right now, but we don't know how that'll be a month from now, that could be 10 weeks out. You
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, we check all the time, and
Yeah.
to give you a better idea, you know, we can call, say, you know, what's the delivery time on 60 or 70 foot steel posts? You know, so.
So
But
if the city were to decide to get a number on those poles, and they could still be got in the chain of getting here, the sooner the better, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Sooner the better.
And if, you know, if you go with a certain type of lighting, again, if it's like Musco lighting, I think they furnish the poles and everything for the soccer field, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And you can get the same thing furnished with them for the softball and baseball field.
So how far are we out on lighting? Oh, that type of lighting?
I'm gonna say that they do it all the time, and they manufacture a lot of the material. And you know, all I have to do is call them and see what the time frame could be.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. That gives, I think that gives us something to be thinking about real quick.
Yes, sir.
So, as far as you know, though, and as far as we know, there's poles in a lot of different places, but we only know Don Davison Park is where it's really got critical. Is that
That is correct, that we know of.
that we know of right now? So, okay.
And so you only got 3 wood posts left out there at the ball field at the rec center.
Okay.
All the rest of them are steel posts.
Well, I'm sure that you would advise go with steel versus wood.
Well, long term, absolutely.
Long term.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
One last
appreciate that.
thing. I think FPU have been helping the city replace some street lights as the lights were coming in.
Yes, because you can't get the parts for the high pressure sodium. And so what we're having to do is go to an LED type, and we're trying to stay with the same type. Like if you go around the bypass from the River Bridge to 64, you can see what style that is, and with the new lights that we're hanging on the Huntsville Highway, that's the same style. And then when we get some more lights in, we'll be going out the other bypass to 64 West. But anything in town, everything's be, you know, every time one goes out, it's going to be an LED.
I did one at my house the other day, and I really like the LED. It's good light coming off of it, and I'm sure it'll last a long time too.
Right, and seeing on your billing, I don't know if you noticed or not, I'm sure Stacy has and Pam has, I'm sure, but you know, your energy rate goes down, you know, with LEDs. So,
Last longer, price goes down.
but I got one other thing, Mayor. You know, I just want to bring to one of the aldermen's attention that we don't never get to have no fun in the board meeting because Alabama never gets beat.
Oh, come on. You gonna come down
All
here?
I want to tell Mr. Alder is coming.
And you know what the odd thing is? Where did he graduate from?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Unreal.
We go to our standing committee reports. We'll start with the fire department, Chief Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mayor. The fire department had received 114 calls of service, 1 building fire, 89 medical runs, 10 MVAs. That's the run report. I do want to give you an update on engine 2. Brandon Mountain called and said that they would run into an issue with the motor. They had contacted Detroit, which is the manufacturer of the motor. They had sent a rep down to look at that, and it would come to find out it was a defect of Detroit. So Detroit will, assume the cost of replacing the part or parts for that. So all it did is just set us back on getting the truck, because they originally said about January 18th. Now we're looking mid-February, maybe, if the parts come in. So it's just waiting on parts now for engine 2. And that's my report.
How's the new truck doing?
Doing good, doing real good. It's up and knock on wood, hadn't had no issues with it.
So engine 2 is going to basically be a backup.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's gonna be a reserve engine at Station 2. Yes, sir. Thank you.
We go to the police department, Chief Howell.
The month of December, the Fayetteville Police Department had 118 reportable incidents of the TBI, made 66 arrests, 23 citations were issued, with a police activity events of 1,301. That's my report, Mayor.
Any questions of Chief Howell? Thank you, sir. We'll go to finance, Ms. Rozelle.
Good evening. First off, I'll touch on the local option sales tax for December. It came in at $262,251.59. So we are continuing to trend well above the projected amount for the year. As far as here at the municipal building, we do continue with property tax payments without penalties through the end of February. The main thing I want to report on tonight is the U.S. Department of Treasury finally released a final rule on the ARPA funds. As we had expected, this rule allows for much more flexibility than what was originally released in the interim final rule. There's 4 main categories under it: replacing lost public sector revenue, public health and economic impact, premium pay, and water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The main category that I see the city being able to potentially utilize is the revenue loss. The final rule allows for cities to elect a standard allowance of up to $10 million to use for government services. This skips the calculation that we had talked about before that they had put out in the interim final rule. So I have taken the liberty of reaching out to the Treasury Department to see and get verification if the government services would include work such as the projects down at electrical work at Don Davidson Park. Everything that I'm reading and seeing says that yes, it would. While the final rule is a lot less stringent, there are still a few restrictions on it, such as debt payments, deposits into pension funds, replenishing rainy day funds, and settlements for judgments, or really any project that is in conflict with the American Rescue Plan and what it's trying to accomplish. So we'll update the board as soon as I receive some information back from the Department of Treasury. But from what it is sounding like from the overviews that I have read and the webinars that I have sat in, all that's left now is to make a plan and start implementing it.
So right now, we've got half of that funding, and
Yes, sir. We have just a little over $1 million right
the
now.
other half comes in probably about 9 months from now, 10 months.
They're saying approximately a year from when you receive the first payment.
So that would put us at 9 or 10 months probably.
So,
You have to expend it by 2026.
correct.
Oh,
So
we
this-
spent it way before then.
This standard allowance of up to $10 million,
Okay.
from what I can understand by what I'm reading and seeing, is it's just saying you will not receive more than you were originally allotted. You can't say, oh, well, we need 10 million when we were only allotted 2 million. But up to 10 million can be spent on basically anything that is considered government services, which is what everything that we do.
Well, of course, we know, we've been talking about this for quite a while, and we know that it sounds like we're 99% sure now.
We're 99% sure, but for that 1%,
Right.
I have reached out to make sure that
Okay.
I want something in writing.
So I would say that once that we get the 100%, we don't need to waste any time, because this material situation, I'm not sure it's gonna get any better anyway soon. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. And if we're looking at major upgrades at Don Davidson with a lot of metal poles and electrical and whatnot, I would say that once we're 100% sure, we need to get a plan together.
Like I say, that was just a project I knew that we had
Right.
sitting on the outskirts that needed to be done, so I used that as an example as I was reaching out. It would, of course, ultimately be up to the board to
And I
decide
think that-
how they wanted to spend those
I think
funds.
there's been some talk about some upgrades, I think, in the heating and cooling system here in the municipal building, so that would probably be something else that would kind of be worked into the plan, but, so it sounds like we're getting close.
Yes.
Any other questions of Ms. Rozelle?
And the
Thank you.
next batch is gonna be the same regulations, so we can.
Yes, sir.
They're not gonna
We were
change
just simply waiting on this interim rule, or this final rule, and with what we're seeing, I'm glad we did wait.
Well, Alabama put out yesterday, the state of Alabama put out yesterday about this, And they just simply said they're gonna build prisons with it. With that TUMP funding, they're gonna build prisons with it, so it sounds like it's loosened up a lot. If in fact they can do that, but that's what they say they're gonna do,
Thank you.
some of it.
We go Recreation Department, Mr. Brian Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. All the parks have been winterized except for Stonebridge Park, which will be done this week. Dugout number 4 down at Don Davidson Park was destroyed, and the adjusters has come in and they have issued, actually we have work that started on it. Actually they were starting on it today. Christmas decorations have been taken down, and the spring programs, we're planning on those this week.
Well, you're going to have a duck walk across from Patrick to Walgreens, because I was going back to work yesterday and there was 3 or 4 just like taking their time waddling across the road with no care or concern for the cars. So.
The good old ducks.
Yeah, I saw 2 yesterday by the road.
Any questions of Mr. Carter?
Those ducks are protected.
Yeah, they are protected.
I
Thank
don't
you,
think it's
sir.
got anything to do with the recreation department, but it probably got to do with public works, I don't know, but, and I did talk to, the police chief about this, and I did see one of the signs down, one of the wayfaring signs, is that what we call it?
That is correct.
Down on the Huntsville Highway, so I think they're working on getting that back up. What concerned me a little bit when I saw that, though, was the concrete that they had poured to hold it in.
Yes.
That sign is a heavy sign, and that sign, the width of it and all is gonna catch a lot of wind. I don't know about the amount of concrete they had there and holding those signs. There might be something somebody wants to kind of take a look at on some of the rest of the signs around, so.
Is that the blue side?
Yeah, yeah, those things are heavy, you know, they, wind catch them just right. If you don't have a lot of concrete down there, they're gonna go. And, I would have been concerned that there would have been enough concrete down there to hold that sign, so. That's not really your problem, that's just an issue that I guess is being looked at by somebody, I don't know.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Public Works, Mr. Eddie Plunkett.
Thank you, Mayor. The signs you're talking about, there's one down on 64 West. We've took the concrete off the base of it, poured new concrete back in, and then we realized we have one down on south side down here. And Christy and myself have been trying to contact the people that installed them, see if we can't get something done about it. But we're supposed to call them back tomorrow
So,
to address that issue.
so they will be the ones to have to deal
Well,
with
we
it.
were doing the one on the west, just had the one, so we just figured we'd fix it.
So we'd already have one down, I guess I forgot
Well,
about
I
that.
think they both maybe went down at the same time. We just didn't notice the one south till.
Well, they're gonna all go down then. If 2 of them went down in that high wind, the
Correct.
way those signs is put in, we're gonna lose them all.
Depends on which direction the wind comes from.
They need to come in here and do it right.
Correct. We paid them a lot of money to install those signs.
That's what I remember. And, I knew when I saw the concrete on the base of that, it's never gonna hold. It's never gonna hold.
But we are addressing that already. The only other thing I have Monday is a holiday. Trash will be picked up Monday night. Ask everybody to get it out early. And not only Monday night, get your trash out early every night. Preferably, you know, I'd like to see the sunset. Because with these weather changes coming in and the way they are, we may run earlier or we may run late. We never know just what it takes to get ahead or behind the storms to get it done. And that's all I've got, Mayor, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Plunkett? Thank you, sir. Go to Planning and Codes, Ms. Christy Gentry.
Thank you, Mayor. For the month of December, we issued 19 permits. The total project valuation was $564,482, and the total permit fees were $2,712. That was a very strong month for December. Typically, we don't do that many permits, and construction is still continuing. We've already had lots of inquiries last week, so I feel like it's going to be a strong January too. Per request of the U.S. Census Bureau, we now report new construction residential housing permits monthly. Previously, this was a annual report that we turned in each January, but they're making it easier, and so we get to do that monthly now. Mr. Williams did get registered with TBOA, and he will attend their April conference, where he will obtain the majority of his CEUs for the year. The December property maintenance log is on the iPads. We have already sent out 25 to 30 postcards this month, and that will of course be reflected on next month's report. The regular planning commission meetings will resume this month. The meeting will be January 25th at 5 p.m. We will have a short 2-hour work session with Sharon Armstrong to work on updating the sign ordinance prior to our regular meeting. And that's my report.
Any questions of Ms. Gentry?
Thank you.
Go to City Administrator's report, Mr. Howell.
Yes, sir, Mayor. For the 2022 has started out just as busy as 2021 ended. Remind everyone that this building will be closed January 17th, 2022 in observance of Martin Luther King Day. That's my report, Mayor.
Any questions of Mr. Howell? We don't have any unfinished business. We're going to new business. We have quite a few items, quite a few financial items. I will state with the exception of item A, items B through K and P were all discussed at the Finance Committee in the work session. Item A, which we'll start with, came in after Finance meeting. Received an email from Mayor Newman. They had their budget committee meeting the same night as our finance. The senior center had approached them had about $74,000+ worth of repairs, miscellaneous items, some due at the roof. The county commission budget committee approved that they would pay $25,000 contingent that the city would pay $25,000 and the senior center pay $25,000. We discussed this in work session the other day for us to do $25,000 contingent on those other two entities participating. I need a motion and a second, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we do the $25,000 contingent on the other two entities doing the same.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Item passed. Item B, we talked about putting a fence around the newly paved parking lot over on Lynn Drive by the Kraft Building near Stonebridge Park to protect the pavement from some trucking that'll be over there. This is a cost not to exceed $9,798. I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Martinez. Any discussion?
We had this in, just so anybody would know that was not in some of our committee meetings, we did have another bid on this, which was $13,000 something, I believe. And the reason for putting that fence around there is that there's big trucks getting on that lot. There's a truck repair shop right there at it. And big trucks is getting on that lot, and that lot is not paved to hold up heavy traffic. So this is mainly a protection of the pavement is what this amounts to. And also there's going to be some, if a board approves it, there's going to be some signage on the front to direct the community that it is in fact a city parking lot that they can park in. And the design of it really is to have the fence around it. I think it's on both sides and back, and part of the front end is right. 2 openings in the front, right? Correct. Right. There'll be 2 openings in the front, 20 foot wide each one of them. The people can go in and out each opening. And that should line up with how the parking is going to be laid out once we get that painted in there. So, you know, the purpose of the fencing is to take care of some issues that we're having already on that new pavement.
Any other discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Allen? Aye. Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
That item passed. At Finance Committee, Will Owens came and spoke on the status of the William D. Jones STBG project after many back and forth sessions between his engineering firm and the state. We finally have what we feel is the contracted agreement for us to move forward after many, many years. It's a very important project over there on that side of town for us to pave for the safety of the school buses and everything. So we need to pass this, and once we pass this, we will get the official notice to proceed from the state to go forward on this project. So I get a motion, a second, please.
Mayor, I gladly make that motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm glad to second that motion.
Discussion?
Just so we'll know, it's public record, so we'll know. We have to commit to the state what we're willing to put into this project. Estimates. This could change. This could go up. This could come down. We don't know. But we have to commit to the state our part of putting into this project before they'll turn loose that funding. And this, if the motion does include that, because it is in the plan here. So the state at this point is committing $915,500 to that project. That leaves us needing to commit $337,741 to that project, of which $188,000 and something has already been budgeted already. So I don't know what the percentage-wise is on that. I didn't figure the percentage, but if we can get this done for this, and of course the state's going to be carrying the lion's share of it. Either way you look at it, every how it comes out. So just so people know what the funding is on that project.
Any other discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Item passed gladly. Item D, purchase new trash carts. We discussed in finance in the work session the need to have some extra carts, maybe around 50 or 60. So I need a motion, a second, to purchase additional carts at a cost not to exceed $5,000.
Mayor, I move we allot up to $5,000 for purchase of new trash carts.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Item passed. Item E, Don Davidson Park electrical quote from Hyde Engineering. We have a quote for Hyde Engineering at this moment of $35,500 to do the design in coordination with the city and FPU. Assistance for a solution down there that would prevent, bring the electrical up off the ground and replace the lighting and the bad poles. A motion, a second, please.
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Second, Ms. Martinez. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Item passed. Item F, Donnie Shelton Memorial Replacement Bid. We have a memorial that at the Don Davidson Park that was accidentally destroyed a few years ago. The people that had put in and donated that wanted to have that restored. We had a bid not to exceed $3,350. I need a motion, a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye.
Item passed. Item G, Kids Pee Wee Field Press Box Electrical Repairs. We had a box on the outside, electrical box, and I think it was also like a fuse box we need to have replaced. We had a quote, we had several, but one that is the best one to go with is $4,482. And a motion, a second.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Item passed. Item H, Kids Park Pee Wee Field Press Box Ceiling Repairs. We had a situation where there was a collapse of some rafters on the inside of the ceiling, causing water damage, getting into electrical. We have a quote $3,200. We have a motion and a second.
Move to approve 3,200 for repair of Pee Wee Field press box, Mayor.
Second.
Second, Mr. Alder. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Item passed. Item I, Kids Park Walking Trail Lighting. We've had an issue where citizens have been concerned about lighting issues down at Kids Park. This would replace fixtures, quote of $6,150 and bulbs at $2,150. I have a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Alderman Allen. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
I am passed. Item J, Little League Field Press Box Roof Repairs. At one of the Little League ball fields, we need to replace the roof at a quote of $12,000. Need a motion, a second.
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Second, Mr. Martinez. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
I am passed. Last thing to do in regards to Parks and Rec, at the swimming pool center, replace water heater and plumbing. We had a cost here of $2,200. Need a motion, a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Mr. Martinez. Any discussion?
Mayor, are these estimates or prices, are these good prices? This is the cost?
Mr. Carter, they were updated recently.
Yes, they should be fairly updated.
I mean, I know we asked you at finance, and I think we asked you to follow up on.
Yes. Some
Okay.
prices are, they should be good.
Okay.
Well, you know, we had one we had to take out. We had to take out because it was determined it was not still active.
Yeah, because they'd only said 24 hours. That's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Correct.
And actually, I think it was four of those that we actually had to go and rebid also.
Okay. Any other discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
In finance, Mr. Carter asked us to consider changing a part-time position to full-time due to the fact we don't have trustees anymore and increasing work of maintaining maintenance and grass cutting and other issues. So on that issue, the additional cost was a little over $19,000. I think it was $19,286.11.
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye.
Item M, Fayetteville City School Pay Request for Brodus Invoice Number 2 for the Gym Safe Room Project. This is standard. We've been doing this for several months. City school system pays for these bills. It's their project, but we need to approve it for audit purposes. A motion, a second, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve this request, $19,336.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alder. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
I am passed. Item N, one other Fayetteville City request for JBH&M invoice number 4 for amount of $55,116 for the Fayetteville Safe Room Gym Project. We just need to approve this. Need a motion, a second, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve $55,116.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, on both of these really, but we're just approving. This is not coming out of the city funds. This is coming out of school funds.
Correct.
But everything has to run through the city. Actually, their board don't even have to approve these, but we have to approve these. But it comes out of their funds, not our funds. But their board goes ahead and approves these before we do. That way you got more eyes on what's going on the cost and all. So this, even though we're approving these, this is not coming out of our funds, this is coming out of school funds.
Any other discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Allen? Aye. Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Item O, ordinance 2022-01. This is amendment for previous month's financial amendments to the budget, going back to September for a total of $269,119.11. So housekeeping, a motion, a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bryant. Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
That item passed. Item P, emergency purchase Roto-Rooter services at municipal building. We had a recent situation where we had an unpleasant situation with some sewage backup in the building and had to have an emergency. And as per our policy, it was allowed at $2,478, but as a custom, we approve any emergency expenditure. A motion, a second.
Move to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen? Aye. Ms. Small?
Aye.
That item passed. Item Q, Fayetteville City School System School Board appointment. Mr. Jeff Whitmore stepped down in the final year of his term. He built a house, moved outside the city residence. Last month, I brought forward the name of Shante Fulton to take his place for the remainder until the election of 22. I need a motion, a second.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Shante.
Second, Alderman Allen. Any discussion?
On this appointment, Ms. Fulton did run for election last year.
She did.
She received a lot of votes. I know that I served with her on the library board, and Alderman Hartman is still serving with her on the library board. Of course, I know she's still on the library board, and I think it's a good choice.
Any other discussion? Pam, call the roll, please.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Item passed. Item R, call for public hearing, de-annexation of Milano Road, Kidd Lane properties. We had a discussion at least twice about the potential of de-annexing that property that was annexed in over about 14, 15 years ago. Mr. Hill, will you speak real quick to what you said at work session as far as this doesn't have to go to the Planning Commission, this doesn't have to go through can be straight from the board?
That's right, and state statute controls what the state calls contraction or what we think of as de-annexation process, and it does not go through the Planning Commission. It's a board matter. So we do have do need to call for a public hearing as we're doing tonight, and we'll do notices to the property owners and run something in the newspaper and things of that nature, and then have a public hearing next month if approved by the board.
A motion, a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Martinez, any discussion?
Yeah, on this, a little bit of preliminary information on this that might be good for everybody. That area out there, when that area was annexed back, I don't know how many years ago, but several years ago, the plan was to have subdivision type housing, which was a high number of housing to go onto that property, to be subdivided and with the streets, and typically the developer puts in the streets and the developer puts in the sewer and water, I believe, and first one thing another. What happened over the years is it didn't work out. So the way it's being sold off now in very large tracts is not anywhere close to where the original plan was. And I don't really believe there was ever even any original plans on utilities. I was with Gas In. I was a department head with the Gas In, or manager one, whichever, I was one of the two. And and we never did any kind of, we was never asked to do any kind of projections on what it would cost to put the utilities in that area out there. And it's just not been planned out properly. It's just not fell in place like it should. And the last ballpark figure, which is probably low, considering how everything's going up, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 million to put utilities out there for very few houses, And it's just not what it was meant to be. And I think we're doing the right thing in having a public hearing on this and addressing it. I really do. I mean, it just didn't work out like it's supposed to.
Any other discussion? I will note that the properties affected are on tax map 91, 11, 11.01 through 11.17. Those are the affected parcels. Pam, call the roll, please.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Allen? Aye. Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alderman?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye.
Item passed. Last item on the agenda, IMS Resolution R 2022-01, resolution to censure Alderman Dial Hartman for retaliatory actions towards city employees engaged in a protected activity. We had discussion at work session the other day. Mr. Steve Elliott, the outside counsel, couldn't be here because of weather, with all the snow that had come down that morning in the Nashville area. After the last meeting, he was concerned that some things had been violated. The names of the employees were actually stated in the meeting. He recommended that with the second censure, drafted a new resolution, and actually read the original resolution that wasn't read last month. A motion and a second.
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Second. Discussion.
I do have a few comments that I would like to make. I want everybody to know that I disagree with the censure being placed on me, and these are the reasons why. I'm perplexed at the inconsistencies of how these complaints have been handled. There seems to be a personal attack on me. I understand that there's always going to be people that object to how we conduct our business, but inconsistencies in how the matters, when they involve me, are handled is very disturbing. On one hand, you tell me that certain matters where people make disparaging remarks and comments about me are personal and the city's not going to get involved. But yet, when the complaints are made against me, this board is all about hiring outside counsel and spending the taxpayers' money to investigate me. The inconsistencies do not stop there. You tell me I can't use individual names, but in another city meeting, the city attorney said it was permitted, and we have not been told different since March the 4th, 2001. I've asked for that video to be played here tonight, but no. During the investigation of this complaint, the outside counsel asked me to provide any person that he should interview. I gave him 8 names. He only talked to one, and that was because she had filed a complaint against others for workplace bullying. He did not interview my witnesses. Where is the fairness? All I ask is to be treated fairly and consistently. The inconsistencies are obvious. The way I'm being treated is unfair and violates due process. If I have done something wrong, I am willing to be corrected, but I ask you to be fair and be consistent.
Mr. Elliott, will you respond to that?
Yes, Mayor, happy to. Let me address what she's just said. Look, the city has to get involved. You cannot sweep this kind of thing under the rug. You cannot hope it goes away. You cannot hope things get better. When employees complain of bullying and intimidation and hostile work environment, it triggers a duty on any employer whether it's a city government, whether it's a bank, whether it's a car dealership, whether it's a hospital, that employer has to investigate whatever the employees are telling them. That's exactly what you've done. You've ensured that that process was conducted by someone who has no dog in this fight, no personal interaction. I don't know any of you all from anybody before November when I got a phone call about this. Regarding the persons who were not interviewed, I did investigate whether or not those persons needed to be interviewed and whether or not those persons had any relevant information. And I determined through my investigation that 7 of those 8 witnesses that Ms. Hartman provided to me were not related to the 2 employee complaints at hand. They related to prior instances or allegations that had nothing to do with the scope of my investigation, which was these 2 employees. Regarding due process and equal protection, you do not have a right under the Constitution or its Bill of Rights to violate the law. You do not have a right to violate the anti-retaliation provisions of state and federal law. Just as you do not have a right to scream fire in a crowded theater, you do not have a free speech right to say whatever you want to in a public meeting about employees who have complained. You certainly do not have a right to bring up details during that investigation about one of the employees that were not known to anybody until you decided to bring it up. It serves as an imbalance of power. It serves as a chilling effect. My concern, as having handled these kinds of cases for years, is that those disclosures of those employees' names were not made in the newspaper, they weren't made out here on the street, they weren't made at the gas station, they were made during the meeting while a resolution was being discussed to censure for the conduct that underlies all this. And so, regarding whether or not you have a due process or equal protection right, you don't. You don't have a right to violate the law.
Mr. Mayor, am I allowed to ask a question? Could you answer the question?
Can we please just listen to the speaker, please, without comments from the crowd?
I'm sorry. Just as a disclosure, let me state that I have not discussed anything with Mr. Elliott except for one time. The original meeting we had, we had a discussion, and I've not had any contact with you at all, period. I've left this alone.
That'd be correct.
I've left this alone. I've not made any comments on this issue, which is highly unusual for me, but I do have a question. When I'm going to vote on anything, it don't make any difference what it is. I want to understand completely what I'm voting on. There's one little sentence in here that if you will go to the third paragraph, in the middle, almost down to the middle of that paragraph. See, I know what our authority is, and I know what our authority is not. But there is a statement here that says, such disclosure, which goes back to what you've been talking about, also violates the anti-retaliation provisions of state and federal law. And then you give some references. Well, we as a board, we can't make any kind of judgment on state and federal law. We can make a judgment on the censure part of it. We can do that. But that is in this resolution, so what does that part have to play with what we're voting on here tonight? Is that something that could be carried on somewhere else in a court of law, or is that something that will be settled once we vote here tonight, or is it an option for someone to come back and take a look at that even after we vote?
You mean can a court review the action you took tonight?
Can a court review if it's breaking the provisions of state and federal law? If it's doing that, if what has happened is doing that, I know we can vote on the resolution. I know we can do that. But since state and federal law has been broken, according to what this says, can that be carried further by anybody else under a civil matter or anything like that? Or does this pretty well close it?
Yeah, let me address that. So
Okay.
I think I know what you're asking me.
Yeah.
I think you're asking, can one or both of the employees take this further? Is that what you're asking me?
If that's what it would take
Yeah,
to do this.
they can, but in my scope as outside
Right.
counsel, I'm to advise you
Right.
all as the city board of
Okay.
aldermen of what you all need to do. It doesn't matter if they decide to file suit. It doesn't matter if they've already done it and
Right.
they just haven't served you with the lawsuit. You have a duty as the city, as the employer
Right.
of these two employees, to investigate.
Right.
And that's exactly what you all have done through me.
So if we go back to what I think you alluded to, which is pretty well clear, if we vote and we pass this tonight, there should be nothing that can't come back on the city because we don't have anything to do with state law, federal law.
Well,
We-
there's nothing to stop anybody from filing a lawsuit if they want to.
Right.
But the important thing to keep in mind here is you have done everything in your power.
Okay.
By by the resolution previously and this
Right.
proposed resolution, and this is the key word,
Right.
to protect your employees.
Okay.
You have to protect your employees from these kinds of situations. Otherwise, if a lawsuit is filed, it's much, much worse.
Okay. I understand now. That was the only little part in here that I had a little bit of.
That's why, for lack of a better term, and it's not a legal term, you
Right.
cannot put your head in the sand and hope this goes away.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mayor.
Other discussion? All right, I'll read the two resolutions. I was asked to read this was the one from last month that passed. A resolution to censor Alderman Donna Hartman in the matter of complaints by city employees, whereas complaints against Alderman Donna Hartman by city employees, MM and SR is investigated by outside counsel, whereas Board of Aldermen of City of Fayetteville members are covered by certain personnel policy rules, to wit, Rule 1.3 coverage. Unless otherwise stated, the content of this personnel manual applies to all employees of the city. The following personnel are not covered by this personnel policy manual unless otherwise provided and is statutorily required and are classified in the exempted class. All elected officials. Some of policies apply to all employees of officers in the city, including those placed in the exempted class above, such as policies related to discrimination and harassment and policies required by state or federal law. Emphasis in original. Rule 6.5, Workplace Violence and Harassment Policy. The policy applies to all city employees, elected officials, appointed officials, regular part-time temporary employees, members of the public, and the contractors. The governing body may discipline an elected official in whatever manner it deems appropriate, consistent with its authority under state law, the municipal charter, ordinances, resolutions, or other rules governing discipline of elected officials. Whereas the Board of Aldermen of the City of Fayetteville resolves and hereby censures Alderman Donna Hartman with respect to the following facts. Alderman Hartman's conversations with employee MM on or about September 22nd, 2021 constituted bullying, intimidation, and abusive and threatening language. Alderman Hartman is an elected official and MM is an employee of the city. Alderman Hartman has also previously referred to employee MM in a condescending way to another city employee in a text message. Alderman Hartman confirmed during her interview with outside counsel with her own counsel present that such communications with the employee MM did in fact occur and the text message was sent by her. The communications by Alderman Hartman directed at and toward MM were not courteous and respectful and have not served to promote a safe and productive work environment at the city. Moreover, there is and was a power imbalance between Alderman Hartman and employee MM. An article appearing in October 6, 2021 edition of the Elk Valley Times newspaper, Alderman Hartman was quoted to say that the city did a lot of creative accounting and cost analysis regarding the soccer field project. The city robbed every account it could to reduce the cost. Such comments were made by Alderman Hartman in an interview with the newspaper's article's author, or voluntarily made by her, were not made in public forums such as a BOA work session or city meeting. Alderman Hartman confirmed during an interview with outside counsel with her own council president that she indeed made the above referenced statements. She had not been misquoted by the newspaper. Employee SR is the city's finance director and such is responsible for the city's finances. SR advised that the comments in the newspaper by Alderman Hartman regarding creative accounting in the city robbed every account, and further, SR in her role as the city's finance director has cooked the books of the city. The statements made by Alderman Hartman as referenced above have jeopardized SR's reputation and credibility in the nature and could negatively impact SR's reputation for honesty in the field of municipal finance. However, there is and was a power imbalance between Alderman Hartman and employee SR. Subsequent to the complaints by city employees being filed against Alderman Hartman, the spouse of one of the city employees who filed the complaint received an anonymous letter in the U.S. mail. The letter was postmarked Chattanooga, Tennessee, and was undated with no return address and no signature. The letter advised the spouse that the complaint by the employee could go down a path that would be personally embarrassing to her and her family. The anonymous letter went on to state that the employee had the option to move forward with the complaint or drop it. It was her choice as to which path to take. This letter is concerning because it could have had a chilling effect on the employee, intimidated the employee into dropping the complaint, or otherwise have interfered with the outside counsel's investigation. While the employee did not drop the complaint, the language of such letter was certainly an attempt to force the employee to drop her complaint, as this attempt cannot be ignored. The personnel rules of the city address the employee who presents a grievance is to be free from fear of retaliation of any kind. See Rule 4.11. This letter is making the complaint against Alderman Hartman and was sent behind the veil of an anonymous author to the employee's spouse to threaten herself and her family. While Alderman Hartman has denied any involvement in the letter, as she is the sole respondent to employee MM's complaint, it is difficult to see that would not have been a supporter of Alderman Hartman who had the motivation to send this letter. Alderman Hartman posted on our Facebook account a response to the Elk Valley Times post regarding the hiring of outside counsel to investigate the complaints of the two city employees against her. Alderman Hartman posted, "Look at these comments on the Elk Valley Times. Some of these are past employees that know the truth." Once again, such posts could have had a chilling effect on two city employees making complaints or otherwise have interfered with outside counsel's investigation. Alderman Hartman should have allowed the investigation to proceed without commenting on a social media website. Further, if Alderman Hartman wished to address the matter of past employees that know the truth, she should have raised such a matter in a public forum of a BOA work session or city meeting. Alderman Hartman should have allowed the outside counsel investigation process to proceed and refrained from posting of comments to Facebook to attempt to improperly influence the investigation. Whereas that on December 14th, 2021, in accordance with its authority under the Rule 6.5 of the City Personnel Rules, Personnel Policy, the Board of Aldermen of the City of Fayetteville is elected to censure Alderman Hartman as a record of its disapproval of the deficiency in her conduct as referenced in the facts section above. Censure creates a public record which may be considered in the future if there are future violations of the City Personnel Rules, Code of Ethics, Municipal Code Charter, other violations or state law or federal law by Alderman Hartman. Alderman Hartman is advised that future violations may result in sanctions more severe than public censure. Now, therefore, in consideration of foregoing, be it resolved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Fayetteville, Tennessee, that on these facts, the Board of Aldermen of the City of Fayetteville records its disapproval of Alderman Hartman's lack of professionalism in failing to adhere to the oath of office as an elected official of Article 4, Section 9 of the City Charter, and records in its meeting minutes as a matter of public record its disapproval of Alderman Hartman's conduct as referenced in the above facts. The censure will adequately address the public's concern regarding the protection of city employees from unprofessional conduct by elected officials and the city's interest in promoting a safe and productive workplace for its employees. On these facts, the Board of Aldermen of the City of Fayetteville believe that the censure should be published, as this censure will act as a specific deterrence for Alderman Hartman as a general deterrence for other aldermen in the future, that such conduct will not be tolerated. Approved and adopted the 14th day of December 2021. Current resolution for tonight. Resolution R 2022-01, resolution to censure Alderman Hartman for retaliatory actions towards city employees engaged in protected activity. Whereas on December 14, 2021, there was a resolution R 2021-17 on the agenda of the regular scheduled Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. Said resolution was to censure Alderman Donna Hartman regarding two employee complaints against her which were investigated by outside counsel and found to be substantiated. See the attached supplement to the outside counsel letter dated December 29, 2021. During discussion on the resolution during said meeting, Alderman Donna Hartman referred to both of the complaining individuals multiple times by specific name. Prior to this occurrence, no one had disclosed the employees' identities to the public. Whereas the disclosure of the identities of the aggrieved employees by Alderman Donna Hartman during an open public meeting qualifies as retaliation under state and federal law regarding hostile work environment, as well as other employee statutes. Alderman Donna Hartman's comments during the board meeting on December 14, 2021 served to call out or single out the employees who grieved against her. In doing so, Alderman Donna Hartman has further exasperated the hostile work environment she already fostered. The aggrieved employees she named in the board meeting have engaged in protected activity to speak out against the behavior of Alderman Donna Hartman. And whereas for Alderman Donna Hartman to disclose the identity of the complaining parties in a public forum, recorded by video, intended by many citizens of the city, was highly inappropriate and violates personnel rules of the city of Fayetteville. Such disclosure also violates the anti-retaliation provisions of state and federal law. See Ferguson versus MTSU 451 SW3D 375 380 from 2014, 451 SW3D at 381. If the anti-retaliation provision is designed to prohibit employer actions that are likely to deter employees from filing complaints with the EEOC or otherwise asserting their rights under anti-discrimination statutes. If employees do not receive protection from retaliatory conduct and after they complain about discrimination, they'll be less likely to report discriminatory conduct. Such conduct creates a more hostile work environment, whereas Alderman Donna Hartman's identification of the previously anonymous to the public complaining parties to December 14, 2001 Public Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting constitutes additional unlawful retaliation against the employees. Such identification in a public forum is served to further exasperate a hostile work environment under which the employees must operate. Now therefore, in consideration of the foregoing, be resolved by the Board of Mayor and Alderman of the City of Fayetteville, Tennessee, that on these facts, the Board of Mayor and Alderman of the City of Fayetteville records its disapproval of Alderman Donna Hartman's action as an elected official of the City of Fayetteville, records in its meeting minutes as a matter of public record, its disapproval of Alderman Donna Hartman's conduct as referenced in above facts. The censure will adequately address the public's concerns regarding the protection of city employees from unprofessional conduct and or unlawful retaliation by elected officials that may create or further exasperate a hostile work environment for said employees, and further affirm the city's interest in providing a safe and protective workplace for its employees. On these facts, and by the recommendation of the outside counsel, the Board of Mayor and Alderman of the City of Fayetteville believe that the censure should be read aloud during the regular scheduled board meeting of Mayor and Alderman on this date, January 11, 2022. This censure should be published as this censure act is a specific deterrence for Alderman Donna Hartman as a general deterrence for other aldermen in the future, that such conduct will not be tolerated. Approved and adopted on the 11th day of January 2022. Call the roll, please.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Ms. Allen? Aye. Ms. Small?
Aye.
Mr. Alder?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
No.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
That item passed. That concludes new business. We'll go to closing comments. Mr. Alder.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor, I'm good.
Mr. Bryant.
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything, Mayor.
Ms. Hartman.
I do. January the 22nd is the Main Street Roaring 20s party. It's a grand ball, and it's going to be held at the museum. There are a few tickets left. It's one of our biggest fundraisers for the year. Last year it was canceled because of COVID. The year before that, 2019, it was a wonderful event held at the Magnolia Mall, and it was a wonderful party. Also coming up, if you mark your calendars for February the 26th, is Friends of the Library, the gala, and this will be the final gala because Friends of the Library have paid the library in full. So that was their goal. They set out to do that. We have obtained that, and so you can get your tickets for that also. Have a good week.
Alan.
I did want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with the family of Mr. Mike Barnes, who passed away this week. He was an employee of the City of Fayetteville Public Works Department. Also, several other families who have lost loved ones over the last few weeks.
Mr. Martinez.
I'm good.
All right. I wanted to recognize Mr. Dye highlighted a couple weeks ago. We had the weekend on Saturday. We had the threat for potential severe weather, including tornadoes. And then on the Sunday, we didn't realize we had winter came fast with snowstorms and ice. And I want to commend all the city workers, department heads that came in on the Saturday and there were all-in-hand Sunday that worked during that. That's greatly appreciated whenever the extra efforts made. Congratulate our Fayetteville City Girls basketball team. They've achieved 11 wins before district play, which is a record for that program. And the girls and boys are at Cornersville tonight, but they'll be playing home Thursday night against Eagleville, which is a long-standing rivalry. Also, Monday the 17th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day for those that want to participate. They gather at Mount Zion Church at 10 a.m. and they march up here to the square and have a short program. Aside from that, hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the month, and we'll adjourn this meeting and come back in February.